CEOs come to me saying, we need AI. And I always respond, no, you need a problem worth solving. AI is not a strategy, it's an accelerant. If you don't know where you're going, AI just gets you lost faster and more expensively. That's really important for us to focus on, is the purpose and intentionality of why we're using AI to either reach our goal or to solve a particular problem. AI for its own sake is not useful.
Some people talk about the future of AI like a sci-fi trailer. Then there's today's guest who actually builds it, minus the drama and the robots marching down the street. Dr. Ayesha Khanna is one of the most influential AI thinkers, shaping how businesses grow, how cities evolve, and how humans can stay at the center of it all and this innovation. She's advised Fortune 500 CEOs, guided governments, founded multiple companies, and still finds time to champion girls and women entering tech. If you've ever wondered how AI can move forward without leaving people behind, this episode will probably become one of your new favorite blueprints. Welcome, Dr. Ayesha.
Thank you so much, Melissa. It's such a pleasure to be here today.
Now, you've worked everywhere from Wall Street to cutting edge tech labs and global boardrooms. When you reflect on your path, what first sparked your passion in AI and strengthening the human potential?
Well, I was on Wall Street working on developing the quantitative models behind trading algorithms. And on Wall Street, watching algorithms make $1 million decisions in milliseconds. And in the beginning, I thought this is genius until I really realized that, the algorithm knew everything about the numbers and nothing about the people behind them. And so we had issues like the credit crisis, for example, where, you know, there are human beings behind all the statistics, people who are losing their jobs, people who are losing their homes in the mortgage crisis. And it really made me rethink how I was approaching this artificial intelligence and the work around it. I realized that AI without humanity is an intelligence. It's just fast math. I wanted to counter that and make the kind of AI where we see people as human beings and not just as numbers, and build things that actually improves their lives. So I think that was when it really hit me how much it mattered to me that we should build AI that's very human centered.
I love that. There's so much in that. So, how did that background influence your approach to building ethical AI systems today?
I think there are a couple of things that are really important. One of the things for ethical AI systems is that you really have to have a discipline around it. So people think it's emotional. They think it's a nice to have or you're being a good person. But it's not about that. AI governance is a discipline that you need to have in order to make AI that is not biased, is not giving the wrong information, is not meaningfully upsetting or ruining people's lives in any way. These are principles. And then there are systems and processes by which you execute these principles. So I'm a big believer in governance and discipline. And so whenever we have any use case, even it could be that you want to watch a particular movie and the AI is personalizing it for you, or you're looking for a job and you're selecting, and your employer is selecting resumes based on AI. Whatever algorithm the company is using, it must be able to first think about how it could negatively affect that person. What are the risks that happen when you use an AI and it's interacting with a human or making decisions on a human? And then you have a risk heat map where it says this is high risk and I can mitigate this risk, or this is high risk and I can't mitigate this risk. And if you can't mitigate your risk, such as making a health decision for your aging parent, then you should not expose that to your patients or to your customers.
I love that. Now, you advise worldwide leaders on AI adoptions, mostly CEOs. What do they misunderstand about the digital transformation? And what do you tell them before they even think about choosing a tool or starting down that journey?
Ready to lead smarter and invest wiser? On the Executive Connect podcast, we unpack executive strategies for wealth and influence. Hit the subscribe button now. Don't just watch, act.
CEOs come to me saying, we need AI. And I always respond, no, you need a problem worth solving. AI is not a strategy, it's an accelerant. If you don't know where you're going, AI just gets you lost faster and more expensively. That's really important for us to focus on, is the purpose and intentionality of why we're using AI to either reach our goal or to solve a particular problem. AI for its own sake is not useful and actually is quite risky because you're not paying attention and you're not anchored in serving your customers properly.
Now, what do you think is the most dangerous assumptions that executives are making right now when it comes to AI?
One of the dangerous assumptions is that we can replace human beings quite easily. Actually, talent is not easy to replace. People who care about your business, who understand the problems your customers are facing, are loyal to the brand and excited by it, you're not going to find an AI that's really able to emulate that in a significant manner. Lots of CEOs sometimes get excited by short term gains and fire people when they start using AI automation. But then later on, they'll hire them back because the reason is that ultimately you want to grow the company. And to grow the company, you need humans who will think of strategy, interact with clients, who will think about problem solving with AI assistants, but AI assistants on their own can't do that. The biggest issue is that our mindset needs to change from an efficiency frame to a growth mindset. Any company that has a growth mindset will think of growing, which means they will need their talent. And any company that just wants to automate itself to death, becoming leaner and more efficient, that is not a formula for growing your customer base, innovating new products. You have to work with AI, but I strongly believe you should hang on to your best people.
I love that you said that. I was wondering where you were going to go with it because I do hear it a lot. We hear it, me living in Texas, we've heard a lot of CEOs in the tech sector letting many people go to replace him. And you're spot on with that. So I'm curious to get your perspective, or if there's a company out there that comes to mind that's doing AI right. And what can we learn from the companies that are doing it correctly?
In this respect, there are a lot of companies like IKEA that are from Europe. I feel that they have a very human centered approach towards AI. For example, when they decided to use AI chatbots for customer service, they realized that they did not need all these customer service call agents. So instead of just letting them go, they began to think about how they could bring more value to their customers using this knowledge that these customer call center agents have. For example, when people call IKEA, they're talking about their dream home. They're talking about what they want. They're talking about their aspirations. They're talking about what they didn't like about the furniture. These customer call service agents actually understood a lot about people and what they wanted in their homes. So they trained them in interior design so that they could become virtual interior design consultants. And so they amplified their potential to be of value to customers in another way, instead of just immediately having a knee jerk reaction that we should just save this money and get rid of all our important, loyal, and innovative and exciting problem solving staff. Those are the kind of stories that I love. They don't always make headlines, but they show that this is an approach that's human centered and is growth centered and is customer centric. You see, I didn't mention AI in any of those three things.
And I love it because I do hear the words, AI is thrown around a lot. So is human centered AI. And so for someone who actually builds it, what does that look like day to day to build something like that?
you know, I think that it really comes down to the engineer who stops who stops in the middle of building his code or her code and asks, what happens when this system is wrong? Who gets hurt? That question, asked early enough, is worth billions of dollars. Because if you don't pay attention culturally to having a sensitized workforce and training your AI to be sensitive to human needs, then you are going to eventually lose a lot of money, even if money was all that you cared about, in terms of reputation, customer distrust. If anything goes wrong, you will lose more than ever before, than all the money you saved through being kind of, not cautious enough, not caring enough. So for me, it's a culture of training, of leadership, where you set at the board level and at the leadership level that it matters to us that the AI we use is responsible and safe. And then it's not a top down approach. It's literally down to the project manager who's putting it together, to the coder who's writing the code, to the salesperson who is selling it to people, to the customer call service agent. It's like everybody is using AI in service of the customer and is very aware that there are guardrails around it. So they're not hurting the very people they have been called upon to serve in this company.
I love that. I like the word guardrails. I think that's so important. So let's talk a little bit about collaboration between what we're talking about, the humans and the machine. What does it look like when it's done well?
The key is that there are two important ways that you introduce AI agents. The first is you just don't announce that you're going to bring an AI agent and send an email to everybody that from tomorrow we'll be using this AI agent. And you don't tell your staff, hey, guess what? This is going to be great. It's going to do 30% of your job. I don't know anyone who's really, truly excited about that. People have kids in college. They have mortgages. They have to plan their retirement. They have elderly parents to look after. Inflation is killing us. Look at the price of eggs. You need to understand that people get nervous with that kind of rollout. Plus, you need their buy in. So they're getting nervous, which means they're going to resist using the tool. I know many companies that have rolled out co-pilots, even Microsoft Copilot to everyone, which is a great idea, but nobody's really using it. So the first thing you do is you sit down with your team and you say, this is the workflow. How can we redesign it in an optimal way, in a better way, so that you have more time? And that brings them into the journey. They feel like they're part of the decision-making process. And then you say, looks like based on this analysis, you'll have 20% more time. What do you think you would like to do with that 20%? Or let's brainstorm together. Maybe you're good at strategy. Maybe you're good at opening new offices. Maybe you're good at speaking, designing new products. That makes them feel assured that they have a job, that they have a career path. Now you combine those two things together, which is essentially good communication and collaboration between humans first. Then you bring in the AI, step 3, and train them on it. Train them how to use it. And there are not enough good courses that are not like staggeringly boring tool-based courses. We need more engaging courses that are workflow centered, use case centered, that really speak to lawyers, doctors, entertainers, producers about how to use AI to amplify their own potential. And those are the three things that you need. And two of them are about human collaboration, and the third is about human AI collaboration.
Yeah, and I know you said the most valuable skill in the AI era is human. So, what skill do you think is going to be the most essential in this AI driven world we're in?
The most essential skill in an AI driven world is the openness to change and adapt. Because jobs are going to be changing, tasks are going to be changing, you cannot get nervous. You cannot be resistant because then you're setting yourself up for failure. And why would you do that? What you need to know is that the World Economic Forum has said, and it interviewed 1,000 CEOs that together employ 11 million people across 55 industries. And they asked them, what's the biggest disruption your company is facing? And they said without hesitation, it's AI automation. And then they said, wow, are you going to fire all these people? And they said, oh God, no, we need people. We need people who are willing to engage and create this new AI empowered organization. So there's a big skills mismatch and gap in the market right now. If you stop being scared and actually start noticing, wow, there's a gap, I can just step into that gap and have a very long career, then that's really exciting. But a lot of the media noise and hype, which is true in some respects that AI is going to transform every organization, but it's also super scary because people think it's going to take away their jobs. But actually, there's a great need for people who can work with AI, who can think about growing the organization and serving customers better with AI. And that's the mindset that we need. Without that mindset, you are eventually going to end up in a situation where you may lose your job and may find it difficult to find another one.
Money Ripples is on a mission to help professionals just like you get their money working harder for you. Their clients free up an average of $35,000 their very first year without having to work extra hours. To show you how, they've put together a powerful training called Cash Flow Secrets, and the listeners of the Executive Connect podcast can get it completely free. Just visit moneyripples.com/secrets and enter the promo code EXEC. Yeah, because we need to be evolving, right? Things that were done the same for years there's more efficient, effective ways to do things. And we're humans, we're supposed to evolve, we're supposed to change. And it's funny, I love that because, so much of my career, I had to do more than one thing. And I'm like, gosh, I'm like this Swiss Army knife. I'm not a marketer. I'm not an engineer. And I'm not a salesperson. What am I? But now we're moving into this world where all those skills combined are necessary. And if you know how to use the technology and you have knowledge in all these sectors, it's going to be so different. And, we've interviewed people on this podcast in, big firms that refuse to embrace AI. And I believe those ones, as you're mentioning, are going to be left behind and without evolving their staff. And they're not going to be able to keep up with the ones that are leveraging the humans and the technology, because it's not just humans anymore, and it's quite too expensive to staff up for every little thing that can be done with an agent or other tools that are out there. And so I love it. Now I want to talk about, this is another.
And Melissa, sorry.
Yeah,
I just wanted to point out that it's not just that it makes you more productive, it prevents burnout. So if you look at a company like a Bridge, it essentially is there to help doctors to record conversations between the doctor and the patient with the patient's permission, that allows the doctor to fully pay attention to the client, to the patient in this case, that records everything and then puts it in medical lingo and puts it in the medical workflow, like Epic or some other tool. By the way, people spend hours We don't realize that as patients, but doctors spend hours after we leave them putting in the notes, and they don't even have enough time for lunch. They are getting burnt out. And who wants a doctor who's burnt out? Not me. I mean, it just defeats the whole purpose of a caring, empathetic, highly skilled doctor who can pay attention to you and make you healthier. So there are really important AI assistants coming out that allow us to do what our intention was when we went to law school, med school, um, the creative arts school, wherever we went, business school, and really focus on that as opposed to the shock we get when we actually go to work and have to do all this grunt work.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely all the things, Berna. I'm so glad you brought that up because I love all of that. It's amazing how much more we can get done and how much more free cycles we have in our mind, because in my industries I work in, it's on, always on, 24/7, all the time. And our brains can't process all that for an extended period of time without burnout. So I'm so glad you brought that up. Another thing I want to unpack with you, and I love, love, love this. You founded 21C Girls that make AI accessible for young learners and now Amplify to support mid-career women. First of all, thank you. What drives you to build these different groups for the next generation?
My big mission in life is to make AI seem doable, accessible, so that people don't feel like they're watching a movie in which they have no part. It's so unfair. You can get such an advantage in your work, even in your home, by having AI do some of the work that frees up your time to spend more time with your kids, focus on your health, spend more time developing your skills and strategy. But instead, what we are doing is we are making it very difficult and surrounding AI with jargon and elitism that only people of a certain education or a certain kind of education can actually do this work. And what I wanted to do was I noticed gaps. So at that time, I noticed a gap in young girls, and they were feeling very left behind. So we did a survey that we asked girls, how do you feel about the AI revolution? And they said, we see it, we read about it, but we don't see ourselves in it. And we maybe also think the boys may be better at it. So that was really upsetting and shocking for me to read. And then we gave them a course, 3 hours every Saturday for 10 weeks. And we taught them the basics of AI, because, by the way, it's pretty logical and easy to understand, even if you're not an engineer. And then we showed how business problems are solved with AI solutions so that they understand the main purpose of AI is problem solving. And then we finally showed them how to create responsible AI so that it is ethical and it's sustainable and it's safe. Now, 10 weeks later, these girls, and we took another survey, and they said, oh my God, we feel so good. We're going to do this. We feel we could beat everybody in the market. They were excited. They were driven. They gave no technology background and all. They gave these presentation and they did projects. And the name of the game is confidence. So once they had confidence, they got a mindset that they could actually participate in this economy. So I did that for 10 years, and we got great sponsors like PayPal and Google and Visa, and we ran these courses, and they did very well, and thousands of girls went through the program. And then I started noticing another gap, that women, when they're techies, they go into the industry, but then they change their route midway through. And it's kind of the broken rung on the ladder. What happens to women in tech that they shift gears? Is it because they take a break because of caring for someone, a partner, a pet, a child? Is it because of our hormones and they need a break? We all go through many different cycles. Whatever it is, they need support. And what happens when they're out of the market, let's say on maternity leave, or they take a break, or just take a mental health sabbatical, is that they lose their confidence because everything's moving very fast. So I wanted to create an education platform and give scholarships to mid-career women in need to say, you may be sitting at home, here easy, digestible tutorials so that when you go back in 3 months, a year and a half, you ace that interview. In fact, you're ahead of those people who are not paying attention to this, and you can continue. There is no broken rung. I want you to take that out of your mind, and you can continue to build the kind of career that you want. And so that is my logic. It's all about confidence in an age of AI because it's going to keep changing, and your mindset has to be constantly, I want to learn things, and I have a future in this. I deserve to have a future in this because I'm that good and I understand how to use it.
I love that because I think that is one of the reasons and barriers, exactly what you said, that prevents women and girls from entering technology and AI is the confidence, is getting in there. I, as a fellow engineer, there was three of us in the program. And we weren't the same. We process things differently. We learn differently. We had a different way that we did things. But I also think that's one of the best things that's ever happened to me is to be in these programs because just exactly what you said, my confidence grew at a level that was unbelievable when I actually got in there. So I would absolutely echo what you said. Talk to me a little bit, if you could redesign tech globally, what would you change first?
I would really make sure that trust was the infrastructure on which all AI is built. And what I mean by that is that there was a real leadership conviction and direction to the rest of the company that we are going to build AI that truly benefits our customers. And we are going to make sure that they don't need to worry about anything from manipulation to cyber attacks to biases to any kind of issue, because that means that they will continue to be loyal to us. There is so much noise with every startup calling every big company out there that if you're not careful about the partner that you choose, whether it's an advisor, whether it's a team that you choose, or the platform that you choose to be on, you could actually create a lot of problems for yourself in terms of vulnerability of the entire system. Let's say you had a factory, the whole factory can be vulnerable. They can hijack it. Um, Even imagine we're going to be making more drugs using AI. So the potential for things to go wrong is related to the massive potential that we have of everything that can go right. So once you make trust the pillar on which AI is built, not speed or efficiency or profitability, you still get to the same place, but you get to it in a much more human-centered way. I think that's what we need to do.
I love that. Now tell me, what stories from the programs that you've created have impacted you the most?
There's so many stories. I have women who've come up to me and said that it gave them the confidence to actually go out and switch jobs when they were unhappy. Women who've come to me and said they put their hand up in meetings a lot more. When people talk about AI, there'll be silence and then they'll just put their hand up and say something and the CEO will notice them. And more than that, I've had women say that when somebody's coming from the tech team or some vendor is coming and they're, being snobbish and talking about this techno mumbo jumbo, they stop them and they say, stop, explain it to me in logical language so that I understand it, because logic and customer service is the core of why we're doing this. So they have built their confidence because they're in a mindset that this is something they can do, and this is somewhere that they can have impact and they can make money off it too. Remember, it doesn't have to be one or the other. You can do good, be a great entrepreneur, and also make a lot of money. There are many ways in which AI can not only ensure your career, but also make you the kind of advocate for your customers in terms of any product or service that you're putting out there that will ensure you have a meaningful career and a lucrative one as well.
That's great. Now, you advise governments and major cities on AI, innovation, governance. What global trends do you advise leaders on right now that they should be paying attention to as we get ahead in AI?
There are two major trends happening at the moment. One is at the policy level, and one is at the technology level. So let's start with the technology level. There is going to be a proliferation of AI agents. These are AI assistants that will actually act on your behalf, not just summarize or generate information for you, videos, sound, whatever it may be. You could actually give them something and they would be kind of like a project manager assistant that will go and then tell other agents what to do. Let's say you wanted a marketing campaign, you tell your marketing project manager assistant, which is an AI, and it would go to a Canva assistant and actually make the poster for you. And then would go to a social media assistant and actually put it on social media for you. And then it would go to an analytics AI assistant and would give you the analytics for you. So these are many things which will happen in every company where AI agents will be assisting the officers of the company to execute faster and better. That's one thing that will happen. Whenever so much digital happens in the nervous system of organizations, governments, and cities, you have with it a great awareness of the risks associated as well. So the attack surface, as they like to say in cybersecurity, or the vulnerability surface of hacking, bias, manipulation, all of these increase by a lot. So the way that you mitigate risk is you have good frameworks. But the second trend is that governments all over the world don't want to depend on the goodwill of corporations to govern themselves. So there are a lot more regulations coming out, guidelines coming out. And if you don't comply with these guidelines, there would be fines. Maybe one day there'll be jail time. So that's what you need to balance. You need to balance that you want to roll out these AI agents, but you also need to be aware that new technology guidelines, AI guidelines are coming across not only from the European Union or states in the United States, but all over the world now, from Saudi Arabia to Singapore to Brazil. And you have to create systems from day one that could be compliant, or you'll have to rebuild everything again.
Now, is there a specific, there's probably many of these, but tell me, is there a specific concern that there's a lot of them, right? I mean, there's not just one. What concerns you globally in the next 5 years as it relates? Is it cybersecurity? Is it the trust? Is there one thing you can put your finger on, right? Or is it just all the things we've discussed so far?
There are two things. One of the things that keeps me up at night is cybersecurity. This is insane. As much as we're using AI, cyber hackers are also using AI to infiltrate companies. So you need to use AI to fight AI. And you need to have extremely good defense systems. When you look at cybersecurity groups, they are dealing with cyber hackers like Scattered Spider. So when I heard about Scattered Spider and the way it had brought down Marks and Spencers in the UK, companies in the US, and also like Qantas Airlines in Australia, like all over the world, I thought, wow, this is such a sophisticated group of hackers. But it turns out it was a group of teenage boys from Eastern Europe who were just finding these things on the dark web and using these AI deep fakes to get into companies. So they would call an employee and convince them that they were another employee and get a password reset and get into the company, for example. So we have to be extremely cognizant of the fact that there are many ways in which AI is being used, even by not such sophisticated engineers, to actually get into companies and wreak havoc. You can have hundreds of millions of dollars of loss of operating income. You can have your entire operation come to a standstill. So that's the most important thing. The second thing that really worries me is the digital divide. What we don't want is that there's some of us who have access to AI and we suddenly become superhuman in our productivity. And then the rest of them don't have access and are not trained. So they start falling behind. I actually have a lot of hope that that won't happen. You see that a lot of these personalized AI tutors are available on WhatsApp in Africa or on cheap data plans in India. And there's so much enthusiasm in these countries to learn and then do digital work that I believe that with mobility, mobile access, infrastructure, telecommunications, and free AI assistants that are being provided online, we will actually have millions of more people join. But we need to keep a lookout that the powers that have an interest in keeping them at bay in terms of development don't kind of win. And we continue to take everyone along for the journey.
This episode is sponsored by Texas Freedom Fund. If you're an accredited investor looking to protect your purchasing power, reduce taxes, and own real Texas energy assets, listen up. The Texas Freedom Fund invests in proven oil and gas projects in the Eagle Ford Shale with no debt and strong tax advantages like intangible drilling costs applied against active income. Minimum investment is $25,000 and the sponsor invests right alongside every single deal. Learn more at texasfreedomfund.executiveconnectpodcast.com. Energy, opportunity, and Texas grit working for your portfolio. I love that. Cybersecurity is my jam. I've been in it, working in it for 14 years, and I am shocked and baffled. I have worked with over 90% of the gaming industry worldwide. And I am blown away at how much is not going well in regulated places where organizations are compliant. They are compliant against regulation, yet security doesn't equal compliance, or compliance doesn't equal security, but security most likely does equal compliance a lot of times when we really focus on security and our data. And so I think of all the things, that's what keeps me up at night too, is the security. And so, we have covered so much. I think the one thing, kind of in closing, what personal values has guided you through all the different places and spaces you've been and you've lived and not only worked in, but the give back side of you, even when the world is changing so fast? What has guided you through all the stages of your life?
What's guided me through every stage, Melissa, is that I truly believe every human being is remarkable in some way. It's an observation that I made a long time ago as a teenager, and I have not found a single person who's not absolutely interesting, creative, brilliant in some aspect of their life. And when you find that, you really rebel against any kind of elitism. It could be tech elitism, AI elitism, sexism, ageism. All of this looks very antiquated and like old school to me. So I really enjoy it when I'm in the company of people who are amplifying that side of themselves, who are happy and finding ways to be to their full potential, because there is something in them. And that's what motivates me to use AI to teach them to how to reach that point. And it's totally selfish because I have a better, more meaningful life with such people around me as collaborators, as friends. When I go out into the street, it's just a better life. I'm a super social, chatty person. I love being around people. And so it's not so much a value, It's a true observation that human potential exists in the most exciting, remarkable, interesting ways in each one of us. And we should have the confidence and a safe and trusted AI assistant to help us get there.
I love it. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this question, because you balance so many things very well between entrepreneurship, your global work, your social impact. Is there a ritual that keeps you centered? Is it a habit? Talk to me about that word, that B word, that I don't know if I necessarily believe in myself. It's more like integration, but talk to me about how you do it.
There are two things that are really important to me. One is that in my mind, it's all one flow. So even though it seems like I'm doing different things, it's all related to AI and work, AI and policy, AI and education. So my mind doesn't have that cognitive dissonance of switching between different things. I'm never switching. It's really more of the same that I'm doing. And that's because the mission is very strong. And so that's the guiding line for me. When I was younger, I don't think I understood how much one can be anchored in one's mission. And the second thing that's very important to me is to remain very even keeled throughout the day, to remain very calm throughout the day. So I can bring up the energy when needed, but in general, by staying calm, not getting too excited or too upset has been very useful for me, because then I can go from one part of my life to another and it's relatively seamless. Maybe that comes with age, but I hope my kids and all our kids and young people out there can really realize. And for that, you can use meditation, just walks, or just speak more slowly. You can do breathing exercises. All of these things make it much easier to have a balanced life.
I love this. And since you mentioned it, if your daughter or a young girl or anybody's daughter asked you, what does it mean to be a strong woman in tech? How would you answer?
I would say that to be a strong woman in tech, you have to unleash your inner creative soul. It's a myth that engineering and tech is not creative. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It is one of the most creative things that someone can do, just like being a pianist, cooking a great meal, painting a beautiful picture. This is a way that you tinker and build and experiment and really let your imagination fly more and more to build things that excite you. They don't have to be noble things. They can be anything you want. But that is the soul that feeds of, the soul is what you're really trying to feed. And technology allows you to do that.
Well said. I love it. Any final thoughts? I know we covered so many things rapid fire here today. Is there anything that you want to leave with our listeners that we didn't touch on today?
Yeah, Melissa, I would just say to everyone listening right now, please go to TechCrunch or go to MIT Review. Pick one newsletter. I also have a newsletter. You can go to mine that doesn't just teach you about the technology, but is teaching you about what's happening in the world, whether it's policy or whether it's how startups are solving problems. And what will happen is over time, you will just begin to get in the vibe. You will start noticing patterns. AI can do this, or this is an issue AI can have, just by reading these stories for a couple of minutes a day. Just do that. And pretty soon, you'll be raising your hand, you'll be leading teams, and your career will be rock solid and future proof.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your time and knowledge with our listeners. What's the best way for them to learn more about 21C Girls or the Amplify programs?
The best way is to just follow me on LinkedIn. Amplify is launching in February and it's amplifypotential.ai. But before that, just follow me on LinkedIn and I'll be giving all of the updates. I'm also on Instagram, Ayesha Khanna 1, and on LinkedIn, Dr. Ayesha Khanna.
Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Ayesha, and I appreciate your time. That's the Executive Connect podcast.